introduce Colleen Sundlie. Hey everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. My guest today is Colleen Sundlie, and she is the creator I absolutely adore, which is date syrup. It is called I Love Date Lady, and I do love the Date Lady. She is the Date Lady. And now she has a new product, Date Paste. Now, let me tell you why I love this product so much. My litmus test for whether I eat a food or not, I'm the author of Unprocessed, a book I wrote 10 years ago, is that if you can make it in your kitchen, you should eat it. And while not everybody will make date syrup or date paste, I know for a fact you can make both because they're recipes in my first book. But thanks to Colleen, I don't have to anymore. I can order them with a 10% Chef AJ discount and have date paste and date syrup without lifting a finger. Please welcome her to the show. It's so nice to see you again.
Thank you. It's such an honor to be on your show.
I'm so happy with what you created. And I follow Dr. Steve Lewenda on Instagram, and he loves your products. I see him post your product and you saying that you like his posts. And so, hey, if it's good enough for a vegan doctor, it's good enough for me.
Yes, it is such a great compliment when we get people like you and Dr. Lynn who are either in the industry or, a health professional that are an advocate for our product. That just really makes us so happy. So,
I realize that not everybody is going to dessert and not everybody is going to stop eating, sugar in quotes entirely. But my feeling is eat the healthiest version you can. And to me, especially now living in the Coachella Valley, why would anybody need sugar or maple syrup or agave or honey when there's dates? Dates are like the sweetest thing in the world.
Absolutely. And they're also just so packed with nutrients. We just got the ORC value back from our date paste, the measure of antioxidants, and it was higher than blueberries for the same amount, which are known for, people say eat berries for antioxidants, but the dates are even higher in antioxidants, and they're just full of antioxidants, minerals, amino acids. And so you're truly fueling your body whenever you choose dates as a sweetener.
Yeah, and they're so delicious. We have something in India where I live called the Date Festival. They didn't have it last year or this year even because of the pandemic. They actually had it in 2020. And people, you don't realize there's so many different kinds of dates. It's not just Medjool and Deglet Noor. There's a lot of variety.
It's so true. My husband and I lived in the Middle East for a while, and that's where we really got into dates. So we were, going to all of the local markets and even the mall, and they would have date boutiques and all different varieties stacked in these beautiful pyramids. And so many people are shocked when they find out there are actually over 1,000 date varieties. But here in the US, where we grow such a small percentage of the world's dates, we really only see Medjool or Deglet in the grocery store. So dates are so different. It's kind of like the difference between a Red Delicious apple and a Granny Smith apple. Those are so different in taste and texture, and dates are exactly the same. One variety can be very different from the other. So, that's the fun part of my job is educating people on how to use dates and also just the great variety that there is out there.
Yeah. We see the date farms here. I live very close to Shields Date Farms, but dates don't look like the way we see them in the store when they grow on the trees, right?
For most of the year, correct. Right. So they'll either turn red or yellow or green according to the stage that they're in. And most dates you can't eat in those stages because they would make your lips pucker. There are a few varieties that you can eat. The dates that we sell actually are called Barky Dates, and those can be eaten yellow. They kind of taste like a tiny apple, and they're very popular during Ramadan season. And so those will get taken off the tree yellow sometimes, but most dates stay in the tree until they turn fully brown.
Wow. So dates are not a dried fruit then?
Technically, no.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's interesting. That is,
yeah, they're in their fresh stage when they're brown. And when the sun has taken a lot of the moisture from them. And that's when a lot of the minerals really start concentrating. So it's really interesting. A lot of folks that enjoy raw foods, they think they worry about the temperature of food, but it's funny because dates are one of those foods that do better under the pressure of heat. So they can be on the desert, in the desert on a tree at 125 degrees. And that's when they're just really getting nutrient dense. They're made for it to thrive in the heat.
Well, that's what I love about it, because dates, unlike any sugar that you're going to mention, have water, fiber, vitamins, minerals, phytochemicals, antioxidants, micronutrients. I don't know any other sweetener that can claim that.
You're absolutely correct. Yep. There are a lot of natural sweeteners on the market, but at the time that I was experimenting with dates and really coming onto them, I realized then I had been, throwing sugar out of my kitchen for a while, and I was using honey and maple syrup and those kind of things, but really there's just not much nutritional value there. So unless you're just using blackstrap molasses, you're just not really getting a lot of nutrients. And I was blown away whenever I realized how nutrient dense date syrup and dates are. There were many years of people in the Middle East that used to wander the desert, and dates were their main source of survival. So it's really interesting, the history of dates and how people use them to survive.
When did date syrup come into play? Do you know?
So there's mentions of it in ancient texts from Mesopotamia. Some people say that mentions of honey in the Bible, the Hebrew would denote plant instead of animal. So some of the mentions of honey were possibly even referring to date syrup. They've found it on ancient stones, crushing stones in Iraq. And there's no document to the very, it's been around for thousands of years. It's documented as far back as bees honey.
Wow. Do particular types of dates lend themselves best to date syrup?
Yes, that's a great question. You can't make date syrup out of any date. Well, you can, but quite often they'll crystallize. So there are some dates that make a better syrup. Ours is actually made with deglet, which, funny enough, is my least favorite date to eat. But it makes an incredible tasting date syrup, and it's the one that will last the longest on your shelf without crystallizing. Once you turn the deglets into syrup, they have a really great brown sugar note. And a lot of times when you use a date such as a medjool and you turn it into syrup, it has more of a molasses flavor to it. So it's almost like winemaking. Different cultivars will yield a very different outcome.
Nice. When you make date syrup, do you lose any of the nutrients or the fiber, or is it just in a different form now?
So with the date syrup, you don't lose any of the nutrients at all. The only thing is during the process, we're taking the solids out so that you're left with the thick, luxurious syrup. So it's not as high in fiber content as the date paste, but the syrup does have all of the magnesium, potassium, amino acids, antioxidants.
Great, thank you. Were you somebody that was interested in not having a lot of processed sugar for yourself or your family?
Exactly. So back when we were living in the Middle East, I had just had my first child. This was about 15 years ago. And I picked up this bottle of date syrup at a market, and several of the ladies that have recognized us from just being in the small town that we lived in came over, and they were pinching Henry's cheeks. Oh, Habibi, they would always talk to us, and they were telling me that this would be perfect. It would be good for him because of the nutrients in it. And that is really what I was onto. I've always been a foodie, but very much oriented towards health. And so if it didn't have nutritional value, I just really wasn't that interested. So it checked both boxes for me. I took it home. I was blown away by the flavor profile, and just really still today feel like it's one of the most nutrient dense sweeteners you can choose.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you're going to have a sweetener, it's the best. You know what? I saw a question. Oh, before I get to the question, which I saw, this date paste, which is fantastic. By the way, I'm so glad you told me now that I've opened it to refrigerate that. I didn't know. That's a fairly new product. I think it's your newest product.
It is. We just launched it about 3 weeks ago.
I hope people are buying it because it's very easy to use. But Cindy here has a question. If a recipe calls for 10 to 12 dates, what measurement would you use in the date paste that I just bought?
Yes. Okay. So that's a great question. And, it's funny because I feel like people are going to rewrite these recipes as the knowledge of dates grows, because as you've probably noticed, when you go to the grocery store, a medjool date is like this big, but a deglet date is much smaller, and the dates we sell are even smaller. So it depends on the type of date called for in the recipe, which often is not even mentioned in the recipe, unfortunately. So we always give a general answer. I think that it's good to start with 1.5 teaspoons-ish of paste per date called for, and go from there. I think that's a great starting point, though.
Nice. Wonderful. Let's see if I see any more questions. You want to tell about the different products that you have? This is the one that I obviously always have recommended and used the most, and you so generously offer Chef AJ viewers a 10% discount, is the syrup. Because what I love about it, Colleen, is it's really funny. Before I even met you, and I was making my own date syrup and date paste. And I still do make my own date paste. That's fairly easy. Syrup takes kind of a long time to make. I would go to the Middle Eastern markets, and, as you know, like Lebanon, I believe, is the largest date producer in the world. And they would have date syrup from different countries, Lebanon, Israel, and some of the brands would put sugar in it. And I'm like, why would you put sugar in date syrup? That makes no sense to me.
Yes, the only reason anyone would do that, I believe, is just because it's cheaper. Because there's absolutely no reason to put sugar in date syrup. Now, it's possible that they might do it so that it wouldn't crystallize as quickly, but really, I think it's probably a cost issue. Yes, and so we use dates for all of our products. We make a coconut date sauce. We make a chocolate spread. We make a barbecue and a sweet chili. And we also have date sugar, which is just dehydrated, ground, pulverized dates. And then we have our syrup and our date paste. And we don't use any natural flavors, emulsifiers, preservatives, anything that you would look at the label and question, what is this? So everything that we make is just simple and sweetened only with dates.
That's the best way to do it. Absolutely. And then you have, I think you have a couple of sauces, right?
Yes. So we just launched a couple savory sauces. We have the sweet chili sauce, and it's primarily a date-based product with apple cider vinegar, and we use onion and garlic. And then we do a barbecue, and it has tomatoes in it, and also apple cider vinegar and some herbs and spices.
Nice. That's so I know that the sweet chili sauce is the one that Dr. Lawendo wants. Do you ever anticipate maybe being able to make one that's completely sodium free for people like that for medical reasons just can't have any added salt?
Yeah, I would love to make one for you. I was actually just talking about it with my husband, who's the operations manager. We should just do a branded Chef AJ barbecue.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Or any kind of more safe. It can be sweet, but like more of a savory sauce that we can put on rice or vegetables or a barbecue sauce. And the thing is, if it's SOS free, Dr. Goldhammer will carry it as well. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Oh.
It would just be a matter of making one without salt. And it's funny, but right now we can't keep it on the shelves. And so we're looking to expand our facility. And once we do that, then maybe it would be an option. I would sure be interested in looking into it.
That would be kind of cool, because I know that Thomas Allen, whose vinegars I love, he's always been looking to make a date balsamic. I think he might have even contacted you for a sample to see if he could figure out how to do that.
Yep. Yeah, that would be awesome.
That'd be so cool. I love when vendors or, businesses cross-pollinate and, work with each other like that. Yeah. So let's see if anybody has any more questions about the date. So I can't believe you have 5 kids. You look like you're in just finishing high school,
It's just the filter.
Well, it's working great. And we had mentioned, it's funny how you do look a lot like your label.
Yeah. Do you want me to tell the story?
I love the story. Absolutely.
Well, so actually it wasn't supposed to be me, which is always surprising to people, but I had given the direction to the guy that created the logo. I said, we want a character. We want this to drive home to people that cook, create a character for me that she's good in the kitchen. She's kind of quirky, And so he did, and he came up with it, and after a few tries, and it just really stuck. And I just love the thought of having a character for the brand. And so I used to all the time, is that you in the picture? And I always used to say no and tell the story, but now I just say yes.
So here's an interesting question from Judy. I don't understand, why are dates so expensive? I suppose it's relative, but I think it depends on the type of date too, and whether it's organic.
Yes. So there are definitely different reasons for that. So the US actually grows less than 2% of the world's dates. And they only grow in the desert. So Arizona, California are where you'll find them, Coachella near Yuma in Arizona, and they're really expensive to maintain. If you ever get a chance to go to Indio or somewhere in Coachella Valley and tour a date farm during harvest, you'll see that it's a very hands-on activity. So you don't see machines picking dates off the trees. Those are hand harvested. They are cut down by men who climb up trees, or sometimes they do have these ladders that, mechanical ladders. And then each date is taken off and they're put on a belt, and they're shaken to get any kind of debris or anything off of them. And even before the harvest, which is only one time a year, in order to get the female trees to produce dates, they have to be hand pollinated, which is crazy. Chef AJ, you said you live close to Shields. Have you ever gone in and watched the sex life of dates?
No, but I need to do that. I've been there, and I've bought things in the little gift shop, but I haven't done the tour yet, and I do have to do that because they have the movie and the tour.
The movie even is just fantastic. If you're ever visiting Shields Day Garden, they have this movie called The Sex Life of Dates, and it kind of goes over the complexity of how the dates produce. So anyway, it's kind of small scale here in the US. It's probably hard to believe living in Coachella because dates are everywhere. But if you go to Egypt or the United Arab Emirates or Tunisia, it's something that's been around for literally thousands of years, and they have it's fine-tuned, and they do it en masse, so to speak. And so it's a lot less costly, but then when you import them, those are costs that are added too. So that's why they're so expensive.
Wow. Well, I think they're worth every penny though.
I would agree. And actually, one thing that's interesting about date syrup is we utilize the ugly dates to make the syrup. Because if the dates have any gashes in them or anything, that they don't look perfect, they don't sell well in stores. And if they're broken, they don't maintain, they'll dry out, or they might start to ferment or something like that. So date syrup is actually a great buy, because you can buy in this 1.5-pound bottle. We used over 2 pounds of dates to make this. And so you're looking at paying about $5 per pound for organic dates. So it's a good value. And then our date paste is the same. We're using ugly dates to create products that are just as delicious and good for you. They just would never make it as beautifully to your Whole Foods. And so it's a great value to consider as well.
Yeah, I think so. And you don't need a lot. It's a very potent, powerful sweetener. And I think another thing that when people get off white sugar and even maple syrup, which is so sickly sweet, and they get used to just these types of sweeteners, you don't need a lot because it's just so delicious and so potent. And Faith, who's watching live, she was on the show Sunday. She's a wonderful chef and blogger, says, I love her date syrup, and it's sold in my favorite store, Walmart. I had no idea it was sold in Walmart. I'm going to look for it there.
Yes. Yep. We're in about 800 Walmarts. I never really thought we would see the day that we would sell in Walmart. I just felt like our target market might not be purchasing there. We really started our company selling in smaller natural, organic, and specialty stores. But Walmart has just really expanded their organic offering, and they've been a real pleasure to work with. That's been such a great surprise too. They just, they pay us as much for our product as any other stores. And we've been really pleased that more people can find it more, it's a lot more accessible selling there.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I don't live anywhere near a Whole Foods anymore. So there's tons of Walmarts by me, but I didn't realize it was sold there. So thanks for the tip, Faith. Usually I just buy it online. Linda says she loves Barky Dates. How do you use them in recipes?
So Barky Dates are, and I shouldn't tell you this because that's the date we sell, but honestly, they're kind of expensive to use in recipes because they're such a specialty date. So we sell a bag of these. It's only 1/2 pound, and it's going to cost $9. And that's just the cost of it after you get them and you package them. And then some of them we have to pull out because they're not in perfect condition. And they're so soft that if they're not in perfect condition, they'll fall apart and they'll ruin all the rest of the dates in the bag. So they're expensive. So I actually don't necessarily recommend baking with them because it would cost you an arm and a leg. Now, if you have unlimited disposable income, they're the absolute most delicious date to bake and cook with.
They taste sort of like caramels, don't they?
They do. They're by far my favorite date grown in the US.
Yeah. And that Laurel Paley was saying, there is a date that tastes like caramel. Does she sell that kind? Absolutely. That is exactly the one she does sell. So Missy says, can date sugar replace sugar in a recipe that calls for regular white sugar?
Yes. So I would say the caveat with that is that the date sugar contains all of the fiber from the dates. So that's going to absorb any liquid in your recipe. And if you are putting it in a muffin, I would just start by decreasing the amount of liquid in that recipe by 25%. And then, every recipe is different. And I think that's a good place to start. But if you're making a cookie or something like that, and you want that texture that's crispy, date sugar is a really good choice for that. And if you're making something softer, like a banana bread or something, I think date syrup is a better choice because it's has more moisture in it.
Yeah, I get a lot of questions about that. And all the recipes I make up, I'm making up. It's not like I'm taking somebody else's. And people say, well, how much date syrup to date paste to date sugar? And I don't know how to tell people from recipe to recipe how to do that.
Yes. I think, you know, it's kind of people that are kind of crunchy like us, you know, people that are, they're not wanting to just go to the buy white sugar. They're wanting to use something different. It just takes a little experimentation because all of the recipes haven't been written yet. And if you're going to use a recipe that's been in your family for 20 years, there's just going to be some experimenting involved. But I always say start with substituting 1 to 1. And then if it's the date sugar, cut back your liquids. Cut back your flour. I said liquid. I'm so sorry. I messed up on that. Cut down your dry ingredients by 25% because the date sugar will absorb moisture. So if you use date syrup, just do the recipe as is. If it's a moist bread or muffin, that type of thing. If you're making a cookie and date sugar, cut back the flour or dry ingredients called for by 25%. And we do have some resources on our website, on our FAQ page, that kind of go over those things too, because we do get a lot of questions about that.
You know how like when it's hotness for chili peppers, they have something called the Scoville scale to rate chili peppers. I'm wondering for sugars, like, is there a sweetness scale? Like, is date syrup more sweet than, say, molasses, but maybe less sweet than agave? Like, is there a way to gauge how sweet a sweetener is?
Yeah, you know, not that I'm aware of, but that would be really so with those sweeteners like honey and molasses and agave, where really they're 100% sweet. I think that the Brix level, which is what you would probably refer to, if anything, that's BRIX. That's kind of like sweetness level. That would be the scientific term. I think that they're all going to be close to the same when we're talking about the same viscosity. I think what you're going to find different is the flavor profile. So molasses is just going to have the same amount of sweetness, but it's going to be a lot more bitter, you know, a little more, not offensive tasting, but, you know, it's got kind of that bitterness to it that date syrup doesn't have at all. And date syrup has complexity to it that agave doesn't, because agave is relatively tasteless. It's kind of like white sugar. It really just offers the sweetness. But I think that they're all going to be close to the same Brix level.
That's interesting to know. Somebody's asking if your products are organic, as a matter of fact, because your company had a different name and it actually had the word organic in it. So yes, 100%, right?
Yes, 100%.
Nice. Kim says, I have several of the products and they are delicious. And JL said, I cannot have any salt. So thank you for considering making some SOS-free sauces. So that is fantastic. Okay, let's see. Nora says, I just received my latest order. I love Date Lady products. Make sure you use the Chef AJ discount for 10% off. And yes, Gina, all the products are organic. Mary loves the date syrup. And so does Adrienne. We love the date syrup. I have it set to auto ship so I don't run out. My husband loves it in his overnight oats and smoothies. It's just the right amount of sweetness. And Diami says, I tried her date syrup. It's awesome. And Colleen has been so generous for my 200th episode of Weight Loss Wednesday. Somebody won a year's supply. And it was so much. She actually sent me 3 bottles. And that was, her name is Voracious Vegan. And it's so funny because she loves, the perfect person won because she loves to bake. So Teresa says, are you able to share some ideas that you use the date syrup for? Is the measurement the same as date paste when it? So I use it anytime I need a liquid sweetener. So if it's, I don't know, like my German chocolate cake, for example. I mean, some of you might know that I wrote a cookbook of only date sweetened things called A Date with Dessert. So that's where I use it. I don't, maybe Colleen has other things she uses it for.
Yeah, so we use it for everything. We have lots of people that drink it in coffee with coconut cream, just pure 100% coconut cream, where they used to drink milk and sugar. So we have lots of people that do that. But I make a cinnamon roll that's date sweetened using the date paste. So it's got a cinnamon and date paste filling where you would use brown sugar. the date syrup, so I've got 5 kids and we do pancakes and waffles and that kind of thing on weekends. And that's what they've been using for years, is date syrup as a topping for that. And then if you make any of your own yogurt or coconut yogurt, it's great to use that as a, a little bit of sweetness with some fruit. Really anywhere that you would use a sweetener. And then there are a lot of savory recipes. Actually, one of my very favorites is a recipe that Chef AJ developed called, I feel like it's called Take Two, but I could get that.
It's salad dressing recipe. Yep.
It's miso.
Take 5, I think it is. Yep.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes a lot more sense. Lemon juice, date syrup, and miso, lemon juice. Oh, and Dijon. And maybe a little water, but it's just so simple and so fabulous. And same with, mixing it with balsamic to make something savory. We do all kinds of vegetable marinades with it. There's just really so much you can do, because sometimes you just need a little sweetness to balance a sharper flavor. And then you're not just getting sweet, but you're getting really nice complexity and some nutritional value.
Yeah, it's so much better than agave and maple syrup and honey, which isn't vegan, guys, and all the other ones, and coconut this or that. It's the real deal. Stephanie says, is it sold in Target?
It is sold in around 800 Target stores. Yes, so it's not in all of them, but if you go on our website, iloveDatelady.com, there's a store locator, and you can put your zip code in, and it'll show you every place around you that carries it.
That is very cool. I did not know that. And Mary says, I have their date syrup and powder on auto ship too. Misty wants to know, what is the shelf life on the date syrup? I have some, and I wanted to know if it's still good.
Most likely, yes. So date syrup is very shelf stable. In fact, I've seen date syrup last for multiple years. I think we have some date syrup here that's actually 9 years old from when we first started our company. The key thing about date syrup is if you put any water in it at all. So for example, if you're getting the glass jars and you open it and your hands are wet or anything, that can cause some fermentation, which isn't harmful, but it's also not the kind of taste that you were wanting probably. So as long as it's not contaminated, it's very shelf stable.
Nice. And there's a question, can people in Canada get it? Do you ship to Canada?
You can get it in Canada on iherb.com or vitacost.com.
Oh, Vitacost. Nice. Okay. Let's see. Oh, do you ship to Europe or France?
Not yet. I'm sorry. We would like to, but we just aren't there yet.
Okay. And Laurel wants to know, when is the date harvest?
The date harvest it starts, in August. There's several steps, and then there's some dates that mature before others, but it goes all the way through the fall and into November. We often don't even get our Barky dates here until December. So it depends on the variety, but yeah, harvest is in the fall.
Yeah. And will you ship to Australia someday?
We have shipped some of our syrup there, but not as retail. I think that there could be some possibilities. We sure get lots of inquiries there. So we would like to, we're just not quite there yet.
Nice.
You could try iHerb. I'm not 100% sure, but I know that you ship to several different countries, and I wouldn't be surprised if Australia is not one of them.
Nice. It's so funny. Kathy says, let's get on to the Mousse. The suspense is killing me. And she's going to do it in just a moment. It's just, I haven't seen her in years. It's been hard getting her back on, and I don't want to leave any stone unturned when it comes to people's questions. And she is going to make that. It's a very actually quick and easy recipe. Stacy says, go date lady. We love you so. I drink whole dates every day blended with my sencha. It's amaze. And here's a quick question. Does it have to be refrigerated?
The date, so our date syrup does not have to be refrigerated. I do recommend with our new product, Date Paste, after you open this, it's refrigerated. It'll just stay a lot fresher that way.
Great. And Monarch says, could you please spell the website for ordering in Canada?
IHERB.com. You can also try Vitacost, which is VITACOST.com.
Thank you so much. That is great. Okay, Barbara wants to know, do you have a cookbook?
I don't have a cookbook. I would love to do that someday. I'm so picky, and I would have to have good photography, and I would just need to take a month off and go to the Middle East and go through all the food markets to do that. And I have 5 kids, so it hasn't happened yet, but no, that's on my bucket list. I think that would be incredibly fun to do.
Nice. And Missy says, do you need to refrigerate the other items, like the ones that come in jars?
I'm
frozen.
Freezing up on.
Hello? Maybe you're freezing, because I see me. Let's see. We got to get her back because she's got to make a chocolate mousse.
Can you see me?
I can see you. Whew, I thought you were frozen. You thought I was frozen.
Sorry about that. I don't know what happened there.
That's okay. I'm glad you're back. So the question was, do you have to refrigerate the jarred items, Missy asks.
The chocolate spread, you do not. The coconut date, we do recommend it. We use 100% coconut cream in that. And so we would say that you needed to refrigerate that.
Great. Any new products on the horizon other than perhaps an SOS-free sauce for me and my folks in the future?
Not anytime this year, probably. But we have our work cut out for us, and we're overflowing this facility. This is the employee kitchen here in our test kitchen. And sometimes we have to bring things into here. And so we just need to expand, and that's what we're trying to do now. And then who knows, maybe so.
Real estate is so cheap in the desert. Why don't you just build your factory here, and then you could be right near all the dates?
It's really tempting. And then it would be, at the temperature, I won't ask you what it is today.
It's not bad. I could tell you, people don't realize that when it's 100 here, it feels like 80 everywhere else, because it's not that hot. It's 106, not piece of cake. Yeah, 118 was a little hot. Well, this is great. So I can't wait to see your recipe today. And it's such an easy one too.
Should we go for it?
Yeah, let's do it, because Kathy is chomping at the bit.
All right, so this mousse is fun because, there's a lot of mousses on the internet. They almost all involve some sort of nut or avocado. And I like this one because it's really simple, and it just uses a few ingredients. So I'm going to use a 100% chocolate, no sugar or anything else in it, the date paste, and then you can use any milk of choice. This is almond. And, if you make your own, even better, oat, almond, coconut. And then the last ingredient is just a little bit of vanilla. So I'm going to get this chocolate going here. And you can find this recipe on our website at ilovedatelady.com. All you have to do is click on recipes, and it's under desserts. It's also under date paste, but you can find it there. So I love this chocolate. It's pasture chocolate. I like it because it has no emulsifier in it. So the ingredient is just 100% organic chocolate liqueur. That's it. There's nothing else in it, nothing. So this bag you can find, all over the place. It's 8.8 ounces. The recipe calls for 6. So I'm kind of one of those people that doesn't measure everything completely. And with this recipe, you can do that. So I'm going to stick it on the oven here.
Even Trader Joe's sells a 100% chip now.
Yeah, and some chips, I've noticed when they melt, sometimes they have some sort of ingredient in them and they don't melt smoothly. So if you can find one that just is 100% chocolate liqueur and chips, that's what I would recommend. Otherwise, use a bar because the bars melt really nicely. So while that chocolate is melting, I'm going to open up the date paste. And again, I'm not even going to put it in a cup, but it calls for 1 cup of date paste. This is how it comes. And the thing about this larger bag of date paste is that it's roughly 3 cups, a little over. So I'm just going to cut it into thirds, and I'm going to use a third of it.
Well, that makes it easy.
Yeah. I kind of, think the less amount of things you have to wash later, the better. So who needs a measuring cup? So I'm just going to throw this in the blender, check on the chocolate here.
Someone can't have chocolate. Could they use carob?
I totally think you could use carob. Yep, I think you could. I think that would be really fun to try. Yeah, I'm sure you could. So I'm going to put this almond milk. It's about 1 cup and 3/4, a little more than that. Again, doesn't have to be exact. This recipe is really just so basic. That's the beautiful part. And then just a little touch of vanilla extract.
Do you normally make your own plant milk?
Yes, actually, right, I don't know if you knew this or not, but right before everything went south, the COVID happened and everything, it's just, we decided to open a cafe, and we were going to do all date-based everything, date-based espresso drinks. We made the cinnamon rolls I mentioned, and then COVID hit and we decided to close it because it's a very small shop. You couldn't possibly social distance. But anyway, we made our own oat and almond milk, and it was so fun because we had our, ever running supply. The shop was right next door to the facility. And so we got really good at doing that. And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I have a machine called the Nutrimilk where I make from any kind of grain or nut or seed.
Yeah, I use the almond cow. They have it, if you've seen that one, it's huge for baristas. So this chocolate's getting really nice and melted here. And I'm just gonna dump it in the mixer, and we're gonna mix it, and then that'll be it. So I highly recommend some chopped fruit, but this is so easy for company because you can just have them sit down with you, and it's very little mess, and then it's just done. And I couldn't think of any way to get around this recipe without making some noise. So I apologize in advance for the sound the blender's gonna make, but it'll only take just a few seconds.
Sometimes Zoom blocks it though, so we may not even hear it.
Right, maybe not. Right. So put it in the blender. And voila. Can you see this here?
Yeah, it looks beautiful.
Beautiful, smooth, and it will thicken up if you want to put it in the refrigerator, but it's just ready to go as is. And this is going to make 4 to 6 cups, depending on how big your container is. But if you're having, another couple over, it's really just the perfect dessert. It's rich. and it is filling and delicious and nutrient dense. So I love it with just a little strawberry and some mint. And there you have it.
You need that was easy button.
You know, I almost felt bad about making this because it really doesn't take any time. But doesn't everyone enjoy a recipe more when it really is delicious and it doesn't take that much time?
I do, and the cleanup is easy.
Yes, exactly. So it's a great dessert. If you wanted to get fancy, you could just layer some strawberries in it or blueberries or any kind of fruit, which I think is even better. And then I really love the mint, fresh mint, or fresh basil is really beautiful on it as well.
Now that is great. And Linda's saying, wow, and no tofu, because a lot of the mousses are made, like you say, with tofu or avocado, which makes them higher in fat. And this is great. It's like 3 ingredients.
Right. And it is a lot lower in fat than a lot of the mousse recipes that you see, the vegan mousse recipes out there. It's dark. So you have to be a dark chocolate lover. If you don't like a really rich dark chocolate as much, I know some of you people are out there. I would recommend using for your milk something with lots of, something with more substance, maybe coconut cream, or something like that.
Wow, this has been fantastic. Laurel says, where are you located and will the cafe ever reopen?
We are located in Missouri, which I know seems like a strange place for a date company, but when we moved back from the Middle East, it was really important to us to be close to our families. Both my husband and I are from here. My husband is the operations manager of Date Lady, and we have our kids. We wanted to be close to family, so we started it here. The Midwest is a great place for a company, though, because it's kind of centrally located. And yes, we would love to open the shop again. We just need to wait for it to be a little more stable. The location that we're in, our facility, is not a high traffic area. We bought this old industrial building. It's been about 7 years ago now, and we love it. I fell in love with it because it's just got so much character to it. You can probably see the brick walls behind me, and the high ceilings and everything are just great. But it's more of an industrial area. And so the cafe, it just is not something it's a destination. So we need to wait till people are out there and traveling more and just really feeling like making trips. And that's definitely happening. So maybe sooner than later.
Nice. Every now and then I'll be in a natural food store and I'll see another brand of date syrup, and it's so expensive. Like, it's the tiniest amount and it's like more expensive than your big bottle.
Yeah. It's an expensive product to make. And if you make it in small batches, which is one thing that we learned from the very beginning, and we were a lot more expensive when we started out too, because when you make a small amount of date syrup at once, you don't yield as much syrup from the date as when you use a lot more. So I think that that's part of it. Small batch date syrup is just really expensive to make. And so we've kind of mastered making larger quantities. And also because of that, we can spend less on other part of the supply chain, and in the end offer us much less of a retail price, which was really our goal, because we never wanted this to be a product for the elite. We want it to be a product that people can afford to use in their house and use for their children. And we don't want it to be something that only people with a really high disposable income can use. So we've worked really hard to try to keep the prices as low as possible. And a lot of what also helps is we do the packaging and everything here in our own facility. And so, if you hire a co-packer or someone to pack everything for you, that really increases the cost per bottle as well. And so I think we might be the only company doing that. we were the first US company to have date syrup on the market. And so, over the years, we've just kind of figured it out. And so we've been able to get the retail price a lot lower.
That's great. Have you ever tried making syrup out of anything else? Like I've seen something called sweet potato syrup in the store. I bought it. It really wasn't very sweet.
I just don't feel like we could really do that because I'm the date lady.
Yeah.
I'm not really interested in that as much. I just love dates, and I feel like there's still not enough knowledge about them out there. And so I really just like to keep working on that.
Great, thanks. And Lisa says, what do you suggest as an annual supply of date syrup?
Oh boy. It just depends on how much you use it. So we do have some people that use it for everything. So if they use any kind of sweetener at all, if they need one, even if it's for a salad dressing or savory thing, they only use the date syrup, and they use an enormous amount of it. So I think whenever we gave away your supply, I believe what we did was we did a 3-pound bottle per month. I think we gave a case 12. I would say for somebody that just really loves dates, most people, on their Subscribe and Save on Amazon, they're getting a 3-pound bottle once, if not twice a month. I would say that's pretty average.
Do you sell like a giant tub, like to any companies, or are there bakeries or companies that are exclusively using date syrup these days?
We do. We sell a lot of it. We sell 50-gallon drums, and then we also sell the great big huge square totes. So there are lots of people that use it. You might be familiar with Urban Remedy out in LA. They do nut milks and that kind of thing. They use our date syrup. And we sell to lots of companies that make nutrition bars, and we sell to lots of juice bars and cafes. And yeah, we sell quite a bit to food service and manufacturers as well.
That's fantastic. Apple says there's a Persian market in my neighborhood and they sell date molasses. Is date molasses the same as date syrup?
It is. It's exactly the same thing. So some people might call it date molasses. Some people might call it date honey. The only thing I would advise is, as Chef AJ alluded to earlier, sometimes in those Persian markets, they will add sugar to it, depending on where it's from. So I would say always check the label on those brands just to make sure. But in general, date molasses, yep, it's the same thing as syrup.
Great. Let's see if there's anything else. I see. Where do you get your dates from? Asks Kathy.
Yes, so we get the Barky Dates from Coachella Valley. We get them, they come mostly out of thermal. And then the dates for the date syrup come from Tunisia. We can't seem to source a large enough supply of dates, of ugly dates here in the US to be able to make the date syrup. We have done it before. We've made it in California. I'm telling you this because I know people love to buy things local, and that's what we would love to do too. That's how we always envision, but we just can't get enough dates. California and Arizona, they sell everything they produce, and some of the farms there have even imported in the past to fulfill demand. So if you can just kind of picture that farmland in the US with the dates, 2% or less, and then all of the date production in the Middle East, Israel, Egypt, Tunisia, the United Arab Emirates. There's just so many more dates available there. So that's what we use for our date syrup.
Well, gosh, who are these people eating all of our dates?
I know. They're rising in demand. So in Coachella, they've been planting thousands of new acres per year. But when you plant a date tree, it takes 5 years to bear fruit. So there is that waiting period, and there are more and more and more, but the demand for dates is just so high too. As more information gets out there, it's hard to keep up.
Yeah. In a way, that's good, as long as we can get ours. Joyce says, what's the glycemic content? Maybe she means the glycemic index of the product.
Yeah, so it's dependent on the date variety. So I usually don't throw a number out there because, like I said, dates are so different, but they've been shown in several studies to be low on the glycemic index. And also, I don't speak to it a lot because I'm not like a huge fan of using that to rate things because, I mean, it depends on what you eat it with. Are you eating it by itself? Are you eating it with some sort of, it just
right. Most people hopefully aren't doing that.
Exactly.
Nice. That's so great. Oh, I just lost the chat. Come on back, chat. How many dates do you go through?
Me?
Yeah, like I mean, your company, like I mentioned, like tons, right?
Yeah, we do. We go through, if my husband was here, he could probably just throw out a number being the operations manager. But I couldn't even tell you. We do quite a bit though. We've grown every single year that we've been in business, and it's been, kind of mind blowing. Like I said, right now, this facility was way too big for us, but now we are bursting from the seams. So we're still totally a small company, but we do sell a lot of dates.
Well, congratulations on that. Have you ever had a date shake?
Yes, we made them at our cafe.
Those are my favorite. I've got a really great recipe in my most recent book. My husband loves them, and they were like $10 at the store. So I just learned how to make them.
Oh yeah, and I bet yours was even more delicious. We made ours with homemade. We didn't use any sugar. We only sweetened them with dates, and the date shakes. They're just
and I only used like 3 to 4 medjoules, and that served 2 people. So that's like very low sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, neat. Here's a fun question from Angie. How is date syrup made? Imagine they have to pit the dates first, right?
Yes. So, well, the dates aren't actually hand pitted, which a lot of people still do, which is another reason why dates can be expensive. But so the dates are put into a huge cylinder or vat. And dates are really interesting because they don't have any moisture. So when you think of an apple or something and you're making a juice or a concentrate, you're actually taking something that already has a lot of moisture and you're removing its moisture and concentrating it. But dates are interesting because you can't do that with dates. So what we do is we add hot water and we put the dates in the hot water. And again, like I mentioned, dates love heat. And so it doesn't affect the nutritional value when we do that. And we press them through a sieve. And all of the solids, the pits come out then because the dates turn really soft. And then we evaporate the water that we put in back out. And we are left with the luxurious nectar of the dates. And that's exactly how it works.
And so you're probably making quite a bit at a time.
We do. The more you make, the better the yield. So if you're wanting to do it like in a 40-gallon kettle, which is what a lot of people would make sauces in that you see on the market today on a smaller scale, then you might put in, let's say you put in 400 pounds of dates. You're probably only going to get 100 pounds of date syrup. So there's a lot of waste. But if you make them in a huge vat and you're doing something like 40 tons or something like that, the yield's going to be more like, for the weight 60 to 70. And that other part that's missing is just going to be the weight of the pits. So it really does make a huge difference in how many you process at once.
Nice. Latif says, in general, do you keep just regular dates in the refrigerator?
It depends on what kind of date they are. So with our bags here, which usually, we could go through this bag so quickly, we don't have any reason to put it in the refrigerator. But like if you're someone that just eats a date a day or 2 dates a day, then yeah, I would say keep them in the refrigerator airtight. They'll keep a little better, but they're not going to mold. They're just going to turn to sugar. And that means they're going to be a little crunchy. Now, there are some softer date varieties out there that would begin to ferment if you didn't put them in the fridge, but those are really hard to find. Not very likely. A medjool or a deglet or a date like ours, you could keep them room temperature for a couple of weeks, but if it's going to take you a while to go through them, I keep them in the freezer is even better than the fridge because they come out exactly like they went in after they thaw out.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, what's your best-selling product? By any chance, is it the date syrup?
It is the date syrup. Yep. And then our second would be the date sugar, which is, you can see, a dry product. And then I think that our paste is probably going to end up there. But we sell a lot of our dates too. The thing about these is we sell out of these before the harvest every year because California just doesn't grow enough of them. And they sell a lot of them yellow. But yeah, so the date syrup is our #1 seller though.
Well, thank you so much for creating such a wonderful, organic, delicious, affordable product that I've been using for years and recommend, and for your passion for healthy eating in general and dates in particular.
Well, thank you so much. I just am so thrilled whenever anytime I can educate people on the beauty of dates. I'm so appreciative. So thank you, Chef AJ. So thankful for you and for having me on the show.
And come back anytime, whether it's a new product or a new recipe, please. We'd love to see you more often.
Thank you.
Thanks, Colleen. And thanks all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. Please come back tomorrow at 11 o'clock Pacific time when my guest is Michelle Davis from Mastering Diabetes. She's going to be doing a cooking demo all with lentils. Maybe we can think of a lentil date recipe. I never thought about putting those two things together.
I bet I could come up with a few ideas.
Well, we look forward to your cafe and your cookbook. Thanks again, Colleen. And guys, don't forget, use the Chef AJ 10% discount and get it shipped to you so you don't have to be going to stores and being tempted to buy all that other stuff. Bye, Colleen. Thanks.